think on good
through
things.
Christ, which strengthens me.
Yeah, right. So that is a challenge right there.
But here's the challenge: we're sinners
by nature.
By nature, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to stop beating ourselves. So what I do is like, so what also helped, I tell my kids this, and we said, and there's passages over here too, like you ask for forgiveness every single night. If you continue to ask for forgiveness and you keep doing the same shit over and over again, which I do, which is like, and I keep asking to change, and like it's changing me because I keep asking for forgiveness. Eventually, it's either going to sink or swim. Like it's either going to change or it's not. If you truly feel like you want to change, it'll change.
Hello and welcome. And this is episode 43. Do you know who it is behind this mask? Do you know who that is? The DC Talks has been taken over by Halloween, baby. DC, how you doing?
Doing all right, brother. We're going to take off the mask soon or what?
Yeah, let's just chop it up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
How you feeling about Halloween?
I'm a little concerned, my friend. The problem is, I grew up loving Halloween. I think Halloween's been my favorite holiday. Can you even call it a holiday?
Is it a holiday?
I don't know, man.
Do we get a day off?
No, we don't get a day off. But we don't get a day off for November and sort of Remembrance Day, November 11th either. Mm-hmm. That's a holiday.
It's a holiday.
Although the banks do take it off. So, yeah. How's the voice sounding there? Does it sound okay? All right, we're just doing a voice check with these masks on. We won't keep them on the whole time. We just wanted to have the theme. We got the skulls. You know how much I love my skulls. Got my skull ring on. Mm-hmm. We got Frankenstein's. Mm-hmm. Frankenstein was the actual doctor, right? So it was his beast, whatever they call it. So that was his hand.
Skull.
It actually crawls too. Look at that. Anyway, the kids got a kick out of that. Yeah. So I don't know. I was becoming a Christian. I've had. One of the struggles I had was that, do we celebrate Halloween? Yes. And then why is that? Like, has there been struggles? Like, I love horror movies. My wife pushes back on that too. Mm-hmm. I grew up scared shitless of them, but then I don't know. I got my kids involved watching them too. They watched the whole Saw series, like that. It's been one of those things. It's been it's a little bit of a struggle for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if people understand what the meaning behind Halloween is. It's not just about dressing up and collecting candy for your kids.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, what are the origins about it? Like, what is a jack-o'-lantern? Like, what does the Church of Satan have to say about it? Like, one of the things that would kind of perplex me, again, was watching on TikTok. And there's a well-known former Satanist. Like, he was very high up in there. And he was saying too, now he's a Christian. Yeah. He's like, I don't understand how Christian parents allow their kids to even celebrate Halloween. You should not be doing this.
Yes.
So again, it gave me pause, but I'm like, I've always loved dressing up. I loved Halloween. So it's tough for me.
Yeah.
All right.
So yes, sir. We made our entrance.
Yeah. So there we are. And I do love my skulls. You know that.
Where did your love for skulls begin?
I don't know, dude. It's funny because people associate skulls with death and all that. And I'm like, I don't know. What was acceptable like a few years back, people they allow us to have like skulls on t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. I just was like, oh, cool. I can actually have this in like everyday life. Right.
Yeah.
And then I just little by little had skulls, and then now they come serious. It's like too many skulls. You can have them in your office.
It became an obsession.
Yeah. And like, so it's, I don't know. I like them. I like the anatomy of it. I like that there's a little bit of spooky factor to it. I don't know. No, they're not real. Thank God. I don't know if I'd appreciate
Imagine a real skull.
That would be messed up.
That would be kind of dark.
Yeah. A little bit dark. A little bit dark there. Yeah.
But yeah. So Halloween, man, everybody celebrates this day. Kids love it. Adults love it.
But why do kids love it?
Well, they're told to love it.
Right? Well, I think a lot of kids say, I think it's the one time a year that we can dress up and be kind of what our heroes or whatever we want to be. Be something different. Superman. So I like that idea. And I think that's what I've always liked dressing up. I think one year at Halloween, I think it was grade 7 or 8, I wore 2 different outfits. I was like, I don't know. I like the dressing up aspect. I don't give a shit about the candy. Candy's great and all that stuff too. And that was always a lure for kids to go, door knocking. So one time, you're with your kids, you're like, you allow them to go to strangers' house and accept candy
from random people.
Yeah. Yeah. If you did that any other day of the year, like you'd be the worst parent in the world.
Yeah. You're like throwing them into the wild pretty much.
Yeah. But So that's one thing that didn't make sense to me. But the one thing that sparked my interest when I was listening to, am I allowed to read this quote?
Go ahead.
That's why I brought this to the laptop. Usually I don't need this for right now, but for my notes and stuff. So there's a quote. It's on mirror.com and it's about culture. And I just Googled, if you Google, there's a article. It's called Why Christians Should Not Celebrate Halloween. And it's Halloween is a devil's holiday, not a Christian observance. And it was written 2019 from somebody named Neela Eslet. Anyway. So that goes on a quote. It says, the founder of the Church of Satan said that by dressing up, either by wearing a costume or coloring oneself for Halloween, is tantamount to worshiping the devil.
Wow.
That's a direct quote, right? Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, himself declared that by dressing up, either by wearing a costume or by coloring oneself in celebration of Halloween, signifies you allow Satan to own you. He further said that when you adopt the pagan practices, you subconsciously dedicate yourself to the devil. He took joy in Christians who took part in the tradition, saying, I'm glad that Christian parents let their children worship the devil at least one night out of the year. Welcome Halloween. And then here's the Satanist was talking about, was John Ramirez, who said, LaVey's statement is corroborated by former Satanist John Ramirez, who said that when you dress up, even as an angel or a mermaid for Halloween, you give the devil the legal rights to change your identity.
The legal rights.
The legal right to change your identity. Ramirez further warned that there's much darker reality in Halloween beyond costumes and candy. The former Satanist turned Christian pastor said in an interview on CBS News on October 20, 2018, I was a general in the kingdom of the darkness and witchcraft. I would sit with the devil and talk to him like I'm talking to you today. It was that kind of communication. It was that kind of relationship. So that's from an authority figure on Satanism. So there's people out there still don't believe that Satan exists, and they want to live in their own, atheistic world that, there's no such thing as God or the devil.
Yeah.
For Christians that don't believe they're a devil, they're not Christians, because it's just, in order to have God, you have to follow his whole story. So to believe that this is not happening is kind of just putting your head in the sand, saying you don't want to believe it. Just because you put your head in the sand does not believe it's not happening. Yeah. So now, as a Christian parent, what do you do? What do you do for Halloween? It's a good expression for your children to show like their creative side. Like I love my kids. So we go to Comic-Con, they dress up like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Then we had the fan expo. They altered their outfits, and they were so excited. They painted their face and stuff too. But it wasn't on All Saints Day and on Halloween's, right? Where the veil is supposed to be thinnest between the living world and the dead. That's the idea, right? Yeah. So the Catholic Church moved All Saints Day to November 1st. Halloween is All Hallows Eve. It has to deal with it's supposed to be when the spirits are supposed to be roaming the earth.
So if you can, you just said a lot of great things there, DC, right?
I usually do. No, I'm just
give us the origins so we can actually have a foundation of how Halloween started, how how religion plays into it, and how it has evolved from then on.
The origin of Halloween can be traced back to the Celtic festival of Samhain. It's a tradition held at the end of summer, when sacrifices are made to the gods of the Druid tradition. Adherents believe that Samhain, the god of death, scattered evil spirits during the time throughout the world to attack on humans. These evil spirits play nasty tricks as soon as the dark winter and the waning summer set in. To escape the attacks, humans would assume disguises, and they make themselves look like evil spirits too. Halloween is also the favorite time of year for witches. For the advocates of Wicca, Wicca is the official religion of witchcraft. Wiccan adherents believe that the night of October 1st, the separation of physical and spiritual realities is at its thinnest and the leanest guarded. It also is the best time for those who have necromantic abilities to speak to the dead. So necromancy. So in this time, that sentence says a lot too. If you read in the Bible, it talks about no necromancy. That means no speaking to the dead. No, that means Ouija boards, all that stuff too. You're not supposed to be doing that. No witches. Yeah. Wicca just talked about the witches and stuff too. You're not supposed to talk to the dead. You're not. So, and this is what the devil's doing basically, right? That's so even this whole thing of All Saints and this, it's giving, I guess, some credence to that the veil is thin by the Catholic Church having All Saints Day the next day,
Yeah.
right? For that reason. So it kind of worries me a little bit.
Mm.
And it talks about a pagan religion. Pagan religion means you have other gods besides the one true God.
Yeah, and you were never involved. Halloween never involved wearing costumes to begin with. It was more, I think that same article, right? It was actually just focused on prayer and meditation. So the actual origins of it was actually coming from a place of good.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah. So how does it turn evil like this?
How does it turn to you changing into like
A costume.
and then actually now giving the power over Satan for you to become the devil, which you're dressing up as? And I've heard this many times. When you put a mask on, you become the mask. You take on an identity. So people that are like, I was talking to Natalie too. Like if you saw Elon Musk, so he had this outfit where he had the Baphomet on the front and the upside down crosses.
Exactly.
And I was like, well, just a Halloween costume. Like, but not like. Never in my mind would I put on an upside down cross. Never in my mind would ever, even for whatever Halloween costume. And there was an expensive Halloween costume. Like, there's no way I would put on a devil.
Yeah.
I just never would. I put on a nun's outfit once, so that's that's a different story. But but you know what I mean? Like so he loved that, and like seeing the picture of them, he was relishing in that too, which tells you right there that he was taking on a role as a Baphomet. Like he looked like a if you Google the pictures on Elon Musk armor and then with the Baphomet on it, but he was loving it. So he was taking on that role as somebody in Satan's army. So it kind of gave me some time thought, and I'm like, is it just a costume? You got to be careful, right?
Yeah. So all your life you've been celebrating Halloween. When did you realize that, okay, this is something that I should not be doing?
When I became Christian around 2009, I read about the one time, and then we didn't think too much about it until we had kids. So Mila was born in 2010, and we weren't dressing up really. We were like, well, we were kind of like at that point, we were just doing like, actually now I went to a couple of parties beforehand and but ever since she was born, it was like, oh, so this is the year I was like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. And
then you had kids and stuff too, and you forget about it, right? It's like, it sounds, and every time Halloween comes up, like, I don't know, I got more involved. I guess basically after the surgery last year, I've got back in touch with God and stuff too. And I think he's just pulling me away from it.
Do you feel like it's harder knowing what you know and the kids being the kids as parents there, and you living in like a nice suburban neighborhood where kids are coming to like trick or treat at your house? The girls at the schools, their friends are dressing up, and you as a father, as a leader, you want them to understand like the nature of this holiday, but you also don't want to remove that innocence of what they know as like, we're just dressing up, we're having fun, we're getting candy.
Yeah, I know.
Like, how do you deal with the balance of having the innocence of these young girls, and then you as being like the father, and understanding what this day is, October 31st. This is like the separation of the physical and spiritual realities is at its thinnest and least guarded. And we know kids are the most susceptible to energies because they're very innocent. How do you deal with that, DC?
It's a very good question. I don't know. This is one of the challenges we have as parents. And the reason why I say we don't know is like, there's never a right answer. Do you say like, we're not doing this at all, and they could be ostracized from your family and your friends? Like, but it's only one day of the year. But what happens to their creativity when they want to dress up? Do we pray before we leave and stuff? Like, I don't know. Like it's also something I've enjoyed doing. So it's like, do you want to take away the joy they've had? Because I have fond memories from when I was a kid and Halloween, and we all do. And it was just kind of like a fun thing. I don't know. Like, is it a chance we talk to them? And I've been telling them about what Halloween is, and like, oh, Dad, it's not that. It's not that. Like, I've talked to my kids about it. It's not easy, guys. It's not easy to change. When we had this issue about Santa Claus too, how I didn't want to do Santa Claus because he represents a lot of the quotes from, like, he represents a god, a Norse god of Satan. It's another form of satanic worship. Yeah. Eventually just kind of gave into that. The Santa Claus I can understand, fine. St. Nicholas, fine, all that kind of stuff too. But with Halloween's one of those situations where everybody kind of gets behind it a lot of times. I think, maybe cultures and stuff. It's just everyone kind of does it, doesn't think too much about it. Yeah. And And I think a lot of it is we talk about scaring people and death and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of like makes it a little bit light. So to have a strong stance on that, it's almost like not in the spirit of it, if that makes sense. So it's supposed to be more lighthearted scariness stuff. And it's like, well, are we taking it too far? Well, then you read this quote of which we had, of which the church of Satan is telling you, we love the fact that you're dressing up for Halloween. That kind of gives me pause. I also don't want to say to my kids, you can't do something, because that they're going to want to do it anyways. They'll just rebel, right? And that's not being a parent, right? That's sitting down and having a conversation with them, saying like, they're 11 and 13 now, so they're like, it's not like they're like toddlers. They don't understand. Now they're in a position where let's have an intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? How do we do this? How do we navigate through this? How do we pray to God and say, like, what do you say? Like, what is it bad if we go, well, like, you tell me, like, I think a lot of times when we're struggling with things like this, prayer comes in. It comes a big factor. And we are talking about prayer here. Like, let's be honest here. We're talking about like satanic people telling you that go ahead and do it. So if you're a Christian, like, go to the source and ask them, say, hey, like, what's going on here? What do I do?
Yeah. You know what that's called? It's called the genetic fallacy, right? Meaning that what we know Halloween to be, like from like a pagan standpoint, at the time what we knew what Halloween is, right? Yeah. And to what it is today. And I think this is a struggle for every like Christian person, is because you're looking at it like that fallacy is that what it is today and what we do it as today has nothing or remotely anything to what its true origins are. So as a man,
so same as Christmas though, right?
Christmas, or as a man or woman of faith, how do you deal with that, right? And how do you still understand that, you are giving yourself to this, especially October 31st, like knowing the significance of that day, and still having light and making light of the whole day. How do you deal with that? So I think this is where people like you and I, at the same time, we have a challenge with that. We're like, this has nothing to do with what it is, but it's still like within, like it even says in the Bible and everything. Even if you look at stuff like Peter, Ephesians, right? Ephesians 5:13, for you have been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters, but do not use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. A sinful nature is what we're doing right now.
I love that quote, by the way.
Even in Peter, live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover up for evil, right? How do you manage both sides of those things? Like if you're a man of God and you're still indulging, and this can even be any other thing, like it could be drugs, pornography, and everything like that.
And we all struggle. So first off, like let's be honest here, we're not perfect, right?
Yes.
I met this Christian the other day. He was a developer. We were talking about this, and we were saying we were going to talk about this. And I said, like the problem is I still love Halloween. He's like, Dave, you're not perfect. He goes, and none of us are. And that's why we need the grace of God to save us. And it's like, but I'm also not going out and sacrificing anything too. So I'm not going extreme, but I don't know. It's one of the things I'm worried about, where I had that. There's that old saying too. It's like, well, it's not a saying. It was I was listening to somebody say it too. Like there was a website I used to watch. And was talking about like how the demonics have infiltrated our music industry. And they're like, what if it was just a little bit? They just kind of sprinkle. And he goes, okay, let me put it through this way. I'm going to make a batch of cookies. I'm going to go out. I'm going to grab a dog turd. I'm going to mix it I'm going to sprinkle it into some of the cookies.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little touch.
Are you going to eat those cookies?
No.
Well, it's just a sprinkle.
There's a little sprinkle.
But it's a sprinkle.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a sprinkle. You don't even know if you can even get it. Like, it's like, it's just a sprinkle of it. It could contaminate the whole thing, even if it's just a little. Especially if it's, so that's why I kind of try to see it as. And again, you have to love your kids, make the right decisions too. But us as Christians, are we like, I don't know, can we take over this date somehow? How can we make it how do we make it enjoyable without invoking the devil? Is there traditions and stuff too? Like what I want to know is like, how is, by dressing up and wearing a costume and coloring one's face for Halloween is tantamount to worship the devil? Like, how is that? So I would want to go a little bit deeper, right? Like, how is dressing up any different than any other day?
Yeah.
right? Why is that different? So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit. Like, and maybe some of you out there too might know this answer. It's like, well, is it just by wearing, well, we wear a mask now. Does that mean now, well, I was wearing a mask 2 seconds ago? Does that mean I'm all of a sudden a skeleton? Like, does that mean I'm taking the personality of that? And if I do it on Halloween, it's like, it's way worse. Was that because of the veil? Well, what is it? What is it that makes it that way? Is it because it's now the devil's dedicated that as his day? And so if you're dressing up, you're honoring him. Is that what it is? I don't know. Some of these answers, like I'm trying to dig into that. I've heard there's always conflicting answers, right? And some people say, well, it's not the way it was set up. Like your theory. Well, it's not the way it used to be. So Christians should really, it's it's where your heart is, and like, and that's what God judges you by. But it's like, well, okay. But then you also have the devil, like the head of Satanism, telling you that you should, they love the fact that you're wearing. I'm like, well, dressing up on the devil's day. Yeah. So the other thing was I was saying, so the professor, the preacher I was saying before here, John Ramirez, he was saying too, he's like, you don't see Satan is dressing up as Santa Claus on, or well, maybe they said like that. Maybe not Santa Claus. You don't see Satan as celebrating Christmas or Easter, do you? And it's like, well, then why are you celebrating the Devil's Day? Interesting, right? Interesting.
Yeah, and you said you find that challenging. Why? What do you love about Halloween?
I love the whole spookiness of it.
Yeah,
like I guess I have a really twisted mental state, I guess. As you know, as a kid, we got a lot of ghosts in our family and visited me and attacked me and my dad and my grandmother and fun stuff like that. What used to scare me now kind of intrigues me a little bit because it's something that's happened. It's like, okay, it's not like you defeat it. Like with the only thing that stopped the attacks was me becoming a Christian and confessing the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus saving us, and that removed any entities from our home, and we haven't had any attacks since. And my wife asks me that all the time, like when we watch horror movies. The same thing for Halloween, like, why do you like horror movies? Like, I don't know. It's something that it's attracted me to it. Like as soon as October turns around, it's like, I think FX, whatever it is. Yeah, they were watching. There's all these horror movies, and then as soon as November 1st hits, it's like we're Christmas. It's like I don't even care watching horror movies after November, October 31st. The kids will watch them stuff too. Like once in a while, I'll have it, but in October, I don't know. It's something that always drew me to that. It wasn't always the same way, but in the beginning, as a kid, wasn't the candy. The candy was always like, great, we got candy in the day, but I don't know. I was always excited about costume stuff too. I remember going to Chicago to visit our family. And they had one of those, they always had these stores in Chicago too, where they had tons of masks. I always loved masks, putting on masks. And that's why I have a whole bunch here too. I have Mike Myers in the back, which I wore last year. And I don't know, it was on, and they're always so expensive. So my dad's like, I think one year they let me buy one. I had to, it was like a half mask. It was like a crazy clown mask. It was only like a half mask. It was only like this part of it. But anyway, I had to use that for my Halloween costume because they at least let me get something. But there's something about dressing up and being somebody different and trying things. It's just kind of, the dress up thing is pretty cool. And I've realized that I'm not alone. That's why Comic-Cons are huge, right? So like you've seen all those people go dedicate hours, hundreds of hours on their costumes and stuff too. I didn't go that far, but I think that's also what it was, right? So the spookiness kind of came in once we not defeated personally, but it removed the attacks. Allowed me to enjoy, I guess, more of the spookier stuff and not take it to heart as much. So now it's like, I like spooky, I like crazy horror movies, not the slasher ones, but like the ones that are talking about some truth. Like there was the movie we watched with, what's his name? Russell Crowe, where he was the Pope's exorcist. And my wife's like, how the hell do you watch this shit? I was like, I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, don't you get scared because you've had some of these experiences? I'm like, well, no, now, because I always learn a little bit on those kind of shows. So with every little bit of fake horror, like there's always truth in all of them. Granted, they are changing them for Hollywood. Like the original Exorcist was based on, a real life person. And there's the Amity horror, whatever that movie was. That was also, some of them are based on true stories, but it's like, it's finding out, well, how did you beat this? And what did you do to this? Like, they don't always have the right answers, but a lot of it comes down to God, the Bible, and Jesus, and it's true, right? I like seeing them win at the end.
Yeah. As
It's
someone
still
who,
scary as hell though. Sometimes you can't sleep at night, but
oh man, and I love watching scary movies, and albeit I've never had like the crazy attacks that you've had coming up. I remember the stories you shared with us
Yeah.
when you saw certain ghosts and different demons, entities, right? God bless.
floating heads.
Yeah, that's kind of tough to hear, and I'm glad like that time has passed and you've moved on, but you don't wish that on anybody.
No.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't go to sleep at night. Like you always see them in the corner of your eyes. So at a really young age, guys, it's like I could never sleep. My mom can verify this. It was always somebody watching me. There was things in my room that would turn in the middle of the night, like saints and things like that would turn. I always felt like somebody watching me. And then you'd always see something in the corner of your eye, things moving. And then a couple of times they came, they visited me, which like they scared the shit out of me. Sometimes it was through just noises. Other times physical. We've had to have exorcisms at our house. Yeah, it's I don't wish upon that about anybody.
Yeah.
And it's also weird. I mean, when my wife was experiencing with me, I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy. So you can hear this and see this. And it's like, yeah. So it's not just me. So for those of them like think I'm legitimately crazy, it's like ask my wife. She was there.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't believe in all this stuff? Most of them didn't before.
Yeah. Well, would you? One thing you've said is October. When October hits, there's a certain festive.
Those memes come out with those girls with the spice latte.
We're sipping on the Nestle Nespresso pumpkin spice. We're getting in the spirit, right?
Yeah.
And I think through your like 40 years of life so 45 years of life, you have been. It's like a muscle routine. I think all of us face the same thing. When I moved to Canada, October hits, I know it's basketball season. I can smell it in the air. The North Face comes out. Like there's a certain crispness and energy you have of going after your goals. They call it the back to school energy.
Yeah.
And Halloween is like right around the corner.
I'm more excited for Halloween than I is for NHL season.
From like
NFL.
Season opener.
I love my Packers. I love my Leafs. But I like Halloween. Like I'm more excited for Halloween than it was for even the start of their seasons.
Yeah, but would it feel the same if it was like August? If you're doing Halloween in August? Like let's say they change it.
I don't know, because it's like, so that's a weird question to ask, because it's like, well, then you would know any better.
But the reason I'm saying, because October 31st, we know like there's actually like
but there's a reason why it's used October 31st. It's between the cold and the hot, which we were talked about earlier. And that's why and the veil is also thinner there. Mm-hmm. So there has to be a crisp, like coolness in Halloween. So would Halloween, the way we feel it now, does it work in Australia where they have different season than us? I think for them, they're getting warmer there as we're getting colder.
Exactly. But what I'm saying,
that's a better question to ask.
Well, what I'm saying, DC, is that you want the spookiness, the harmless fun behind Halloween, right? And we know like the polarity in what you're saying on that actual day is what it means. There's an evil spirit behind it. If you want to enjoy Halloween the way you want to enjoy Halloween without all the negatives behind it and seeing what it entails, and you saying you enjoy October the way you enjoy October, would you want it to be earlier so you can still have the same effects but still not having the guilt of having the evilness that comes with it on that specific time of the month?
I'd still say no.
You still say no.
And the reason why is like, I wouldn't mind having it earlier in October. Mm-hmm. So like, that's because the reason why I think October works is because it's for costumes and things like that. It's like, it's not cold enough or snow on the ground, mm-hmm. but it's like the world is kind of getting it's almost dead in the view. Like your trees, there's no leaves on the tree and it looks kind of creepy in the middle of the night. Right. And it's like the forest is a little cold. There's a little more fog. Mm-hmm. The summertime, mm-hmm. everything's lush. Mm-hmm. There's no death around, and like I know we're not supposed to tie them. If it's just costumes, we could do a costume day, but it would take on a different feel. You wouldn't have scary movies. You would have people dressed up as clowns, which are actually scary. Clowns are scared the shit out of me too. Especially It. You ever watch the original It?
No.
Yeah, that's a good one. It was a TV series, and they made it into a movie. Like anyway, it's not a TV series. It was a 2-part video, and it's really a 2-part movie, made for TV movie. John Ritter's in it. Pennywise is played by what the hell? I gotta Google. I forgot his name now too. I'm now gonna say. But the idea is, it would take on a different movie, right? Mm-hmm. It would take on a whole different thing. So it wouldn't be it wouldn't be like spooky that way.
Yeah.
Remember that with him, Pennywise?
Oh, yes, I've seen that.
Tim Curry, I think it is. Tim Curry. That's it. I didn't verify. For some reason, I had to look at the picture. Remember, his name was Tim Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in Clue. He was also in Home Alone Part 2.
Yes.
He was also in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is a good. But anyway, so yes, definitely. Like I think in order to be satisfied, we could do it. If you did it in August, it would feel like, more playful kind of characters, right?
But it won't feel the same though.
No.
And that's the challenge.
And that's the problem, right? It's like anything else. Like you can go jump off a plane and to go skydive, but you can do that same. Like, is the fear still there if you're just kind of doing it in a room? Like you don't really get the jump, right? Because there's no real fear, right? Well, we know what scares us is mostly because you're kind of playing like with fire there. And I think that's part of it, right?
It's part of the mystique.
The mystique, right?
Yeah.
So before even I knew about it being real devils, I remember watching The Crow too, and remember they called it Devil's Night on the 30th, and they were going around harassing. That's when Brandon Lee's character came back from the dead. I remember like, what's Devil's Night? Halloween's the next night, and Devil's Night. But it's like, but I never really associated Halloween with the devil, believe it or not, until I became Christian. So I don't know, because I think if we didn't grow up having the feeling of Halloween when it was, then then it would be easier and better. I think we wouldn't have to worry about the devil, and then we wouldn't have the nostalgia of Halloween when we grew up as kids.
Would you say that as time progresses day by day, that you're getting deeper in your faith?
Yeah.
Would you also say that as you get deeper in your faith, that Halloween, like the love and enjoyment you have for Halloween, do you see that going down?
It's already started this year. I'm not really looking forward to it as much. Last year I had my Mike Myers outfit. I was really kind of excited. This year, as I got deeper into more reading the Bible every morning and getting into it and asking God to change me. Yeah. I'm like, the love is, now I'm struggling again.
The festiveness isn't there anymore.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, I'm like, I don't really care for it this year. Really. I'm like, it's not even though I loved Halloween too, like I don't know. I haven't thought about it as much.
Yeah.
And I used to, like I said, I love Halloween. Like I always have, but this year it just feels, it's at a point where I wanted to talk about it on the podcast. I'm like, we shouldn't be doing this, right? Like as Christians, should we be doing Halloween?
Yeah. So how should Christians move from this holiday, right? And there's a lot of things too, DC, that where we live it in our everyday lives, but it's totally against what we should. It's totally against like the faith we have in God, right? Yeah. So Halloween is like one part of the equation. Off air, we're talking about moon gods and everything, like, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way to Sunday.
Thursday,
exactly right. We claim these days. We say happy Thursday, happy Monday, happy Friday. And when you really look at it, that's actually, you're praying to a certain God. So it kind of makes it feel as if you're to live a Christian life, you need to be on your straight and narrow. You can't be, as we said, half pregnant. You can't be, I'm going to read the Bible today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to avoid this. Yeah, but I'm going to dabble a little bit. It's not too bad, right? You make excuses for the things that you enjoy because
we make excuses.
We make excuses, right? So it can challenge a Christian to be like, am I fully Christian? Right. And even in the Bible, like even when I was in my men's Bible study this week, that one of the leaders, Anthony, he was saying, how many of you guys sometimes feel like fake Christians? Right. And I had to say, yes, I can be a fake Christian at times. And I can admit that right now.
100%.
Yeah, I'm a fake Christian sometimes. Sometimes I do things that like,
which you know are bad. You shouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. Right. And I still indulge. And then I have the audacity to come on Monday evening at 7 and be like, yes, guys, like, Philippians 4:12, like,
You mean 4:13?
4:13, think on good things.
Christ which strengthens me.
Yeah, right? So that is a challenge right there.
But here's the challenge. We're sinners.
By nature.
We're not perfect, right? So we got to stop beating ourselves. So what I do is what also helped, I tell my kids this, and we said, and there's passages over here too, like you ask for forgiveness every single night. if you continue to ask for forgiveness and you keep doing the same shit over and over again, which I do, which is like, and I keep asking to change, and it's changing me because I keep asking for forgiveness. Eventually, it's either going to sink or swim. Like it's either going to change or it's not. If you truly feel like you want to change, it'll change. So I wouldn't call it a fake Christian. You're a Christian in training. That's why I would call it. We're not perfect, and no one expects us to be. God doesn't expect us to be perfect right now. He understands that. If we were perfect, we wouldn't need Jesus to come and die for our sins because there was no sin, because we would have been perfect, living in a perfect world. Right?
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We're imperfect beings. But that also shows you the love of God. That we aren't perfect and he can forgive us.
Yeah.
So we have to stop beating up ourselves about it too. We have to make the change. We don't willfully do those things. It's like those guys are like adulterers, for example, and they're continuing like being an adulterer. Like, well, God will forgive you if you want to be forgiven. That means you stop messing around. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't want to mess around all the time too, and not feel guilty about it too. Because we all have those friends that do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're like, they go through their church. Like we heard about pastors and stuff doing that too. And it's like, there's no guilt in them whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like that's an indulgence, which that would be a fake Christian. What you're describing to me is being human, wanting to change. Eventually, if you want to change, it'll change. Like it's not easy. It's a struggle through all of us. We all have pornography, masturbation, all that stuff. That's what I'm talking about too for most of us too. And I pray every time we do it. I'm just like, what am I doing? Like I shouldn't be doing this. And it's like I just feel guilty about it afterwards. When you stop feeling guilty about it is when you have a problem.
Man, even on that thing about like let's say pornography, right? Of course, once it's introduced to you, you start dabbling in it. And I dabbled within like high school, early years of university. And then I remember making the decision, I'm going to stop. It was DC, it was instant, right? And I said, I'm going to stop. Then I struggled as any person would.
Yep.
Naturally. Then I was looking back, I was like, man, it's been like 2-3 years since I ever looked at a dirty website. I don't even think about it anymore. I don't even consider it. It's so profound how when you make a decision to do something, you slowly go through like the ups and downs, but after some time you stop desiring those and you start looking at it as like, wow, look, and I think also too, like getting deeper into God and praying and being a man of faith, you start seeing the evil when you see certain images and certain words or hear certain words. You actually see things through a different lens than you've never seen it before. And I look at things now and I'm like, wow, that's why you and I can see things similar, in a similar fashion, because we see the evil traps that are presented every single. So to go to that, it just seems so unholy of me to do that. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. And that's why when I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, like I preach what we talk about with God, and we'll talk about this with Halloween. I'm also guilty of this stuff too. Like, listen, I'm not talking to you and that's the other thing when you talk to somebody about like, failure, things you don't do wrong, like we always mess up too. It comes from a stronger point from somebody who's been there also struggling with it. It's been through that before, as opposed to somebody who's just never had to worry about it. Yeah. Imagine if Jesus was never really human and he's just like, oh, you shouldn't have to go. Why temptation? Like, why can't you just beat it? No, like the guy was tempted in the devil in the desert for 40 days. And the devil said to him, he goes, I'll give you everything. He didn't deny him that he couldn't give him. He was like, he was tempted. He was tempted by food, by sex, by alcohol. He was tempted by all those things. And just even know, but I think that's the thing is like he was tempted, but he didn't indulge in it. And that's kind of like, that's where we should get our strength from. There are times in which we will falter, but no one's strength that it's like, it is possible to be perfect. And that's our goal. And I did that in one of, we're perfectly imperfect for a reason. Yeah. Because once we get closer and closer, you look back and it's like, I think the struggle is part of the journey and it makes you whole. It makes the love of God even more profound. Yeah.
So you're not here telling Christians not to or to celebrate Halloween. You're more presenting an idea for them to consider. Like, that's right. This is what we've been doing.
Listen, my kids are going to go for Halloween this year. I already know it. They've already been talking about it too. It's just like, and I talked to Natalie, but I already know it.
You know it, yeah.
I can present what I want to, but I'm not a control freak, you know, and that's also just going to push them the wrong way too. So yeah, exactly. It's like we're presenting like, what if we all just stop doing it? But I said to you before, in order to overthrow the banks, to overthrow the world, and all that kind of stuff too, we have to have a collective consciousness about doing some of that stuff, and we won't have that in this world.
Yeah.
There's just too many people with their own agendas and stuff too. Just people don't want to change, don't want to believe any of that stuff. It would just push back. So it won't happen.
Yeah.
So Halloween never go away. No, it'll just get bigger.
And it's also so commercialized now that it is a money-making day.
Oh, huge.
Right? So to like,
it's almost bigger than Christmas.
It's bigger than Christmas. Like,
I wouldn't say it is bigger than Christmas, but it's
up there.
It's up there.
Right? The costumes are overpriced. The pop-up stores, they clean out.
And when did all the like the slutty outfits and all that stuff come? Because I like literally, I remember being university and some of the girls were like, no, not everybody's slutty. And then a few years ago, I remember we went to, so like 15 years ago, went to my buddy's bachelor party, and how things was like, everyone was wearing, like, we went to a bar and we're like, holy crap, like the girls were almost naked. We're like, when did this shift happen? Was it always this way?
Yeah.
And that also tells you like a little bit further down the spiral we're getting, right? It's just like every year is getting worse and worse. I know we really need to wrap up. We're way past our time, by the way.
We're about to wrap it up right now, 2:30. But any parting words for the Christian community that struggle with this day? What is your sentiment now as we are closing this, as you've reflected and done everything?
Yeah. So the first thing I would always tell everybody is like, do your own research. I know we always say that. Don't just listen to what I'm saying. Read, follow up what I've said before. Listen to some of the people that have been there before. Like, you know, like whether they're truth sayers about the Satanists, you know, saying about, you know, talking with the devil and this is his word. Like, do that. But at the end of the day, you got to know between you and your creator what you guys have, like your relationship, what it's like, what you feel most comfortable with, and your kids and your family. I am not dictating anybody to tell them not to participate in Halloween. That's not the goal. That's never been, or the goal of the show has never been to tell people what to do. Agreed? And most of the time, the show is also not even to give our own ideas. This one we're giving kind of our own ideas. But the idea of the show is to make you to think. So this is one of those ideas.
Start dialogue.
Exactly. Have a dialogue with your children. Have a dialogue with your spouse. Have a dialogue with your God. Have a dialogue. There's only one God. But have a dialogue with that, and you make your decisions based on what is
in your heart.
In your heart.
Amazing. Well, everybody, that has been episode 43 of the DC Talks podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and also Spotify. Stay safe this Halloween week. Hope you enjoy the day. You know, go trick-or-treating, crush all the coffee crisps as you can. I remember I love to do that. Yep. It's very addictive. I can't do Halloween anymore, but I might get one of the bags, you know, like the hodgepodge. They have the Smarties, coffee crisps, Kit Kat, everything. You know, you can indulge that as an adult, but stay safe out there, stay prayed up, and we'll see you next week for episode 44. DC, peace out.
Peace out.